Greetings, friends, and welcome to the Gaming Adventure and Discovery Explorers, a show about our adventures and discoveries as we explore the world of gaming.
On today's show, we will discuss the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, the first edition module from the 80s that I recently ran. We will also discuss, and I will share my experiences with the old school Renaissance, which I don't know a whole lot about, but I've been really exploring and I want to share that with you. And then Galen will lead us through a discussion about how do we find and keep track of the games that we like. Let's explore. All right, so Galen, I think I've told you a little bit about this, but and I think I mentioned it before, but I recently put together a game of people mostly that I either have never gamed with or have wanted to game with, and we'd used 5th edition rules, but we used those rules with a 1st edition AD&D module, and so here it is. It's the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh,
Nice.
And it's an original beaten up. I think I bought it at a gaming store or in a used bookstore or something, probably in the 90s, when you could get these things cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran it. I ran the first half anyway, and so I want to talk about some details about that. So
Great, cool. Yeah, I have to admit I didn't know anything about the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh.
Yeah.
So I ran off to the wiki and I read about it and some of its history, and it's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to hearing what your experiences was with it. Yeah,
what do you remember of the history? Because I have not read the Wikipedia article.
The interesting thing the one thing that stood out for me was that this was, what did it say? It was the first installment. It was of 3 modules designed and developed in the UK.
Yeah.
It was the first ones that were done over there.
Yeah.
Which I thought, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd heard about kind of like the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh had kind of like 2 different areas, like a haunted mansion and then a something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that there were 2 other modules that followed on after this that were all meant to be kind of like strung together into a little mini campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and so with this, that's all correct. And you know, the reason I chose it was because I had a friend when we were playing D&D, and I ran it from the player side, with just a gaggle of characters. So I was running like 5 different characters, and we ran through the module. And we ran through actually the first 2 modules that you just mentioned. So it was U1 and U2, which is a funny thing to say now, but U2 was, but this was U2 did not. No one cared about U2 then. 1981 was the publication. Was the publication date. So anyway, so I ran it. This was my first time to convert also an old not 5th edition module into 5th edition. So that was a little bit of a challenge, and the flavor was very different. But so as you mentioned, it starts with a haunted house, and I have to admit that right out of the bat, it's been a while since I've really looked at adventures, and especially old ones, but the hooks weren't that great.
Okay.
Like how do you get them into this haunted house was a little not really built in. Which is fine because I tend to want to personalize that anyway to my campaign.
Okay. Yeah.
And so and what I did, I've been thinking that everyone should do this. I did a Suicide Squad kind of model, but not quite as severe. And so in the Suicide Squad, it was comics, and then it was a movie that was pretty bad, but I enjoyed it sort of. In that same way we were talking about offline before we started the broadcast, where it was just so bad.
Right.
That
you can laugh at it a little bit.
Yeah. And really the editing was the worst part. Like it was kind of fun in a lot of ways. So anyway, but the premise is, they're all in prison. So all these characters are in prison, and some benefactor who needs them kind of gets them out of prison and pulls some strings to accomplish a goal for them. And so this was something I just all set up. And so I had them all, The other thing that's worth mentioning is I only wanted to do 2 sessions. This was a group of people that that was my whole idea. Like, I just want to run an adventure. I want to run with some new people for a couple sessions, low impact. Everybody can kind of have a weird schedule about it that frees people up for some weird scheduling, if it's once or twice versus a campaign, if it's
right.
Whatever. So I wanted to go fast too. I didn't want them hemming and hawing. I didn't want them to kind of have to, find the adventure. So I created a benefactor who had moved into town, Saltmarsh, and I put Saltmarsh in my campaign setting of Halcyon.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And she had moved to town, and it was her uncle's property that was now known to be haunted, and she couldn't get the town council to take her seriously. She has some money, and so she put together this group, in order to go explore and figure out why this haunted house, what was going on with this haunted house.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone wanted to play, so it went pretty well. So we got started, and so just talking about the module a little bit, it's one thing that just reminds me, having run 4th and 5th edition, is how each edition does have a different feel to it. I never ran 3rd. I ran very little 2nd. And so, 4th edition had these great set piece encounters. It was a great battle game. And 5th edition, especially the Wizards of the Coast modules, are very, they're almost like Hollywood movies, which is, they're well produced and they're really big, and it's a hardback module, and they have these huge scopes and scales.
Yeah.
And this is just, it's like we've talked about. It's a haunted house at the beginning, and so they go in, and it's really well crafted. There's a lot of little details in here that are a lot of fun, and little clues about what's going on, and little clues about secrets. There's a lot of secret doors in here.
Okay.
And I don't remember what the rule is in 1st edition for secret doors. I think you have to roll to find them, but I've long since decided that if you look for a secret door where there is a secret door, you find the secret door. Gotcha. So that's just my rule of thumb, because I'm like, well, I don't know, that's not very fun to roll. I don't know, it just seems like not adventure-y to limit that. So
I gotcha.
So they walked in, and they I had one druid who wanted to talk to a seagull, which was not in the module. So the usual,
exactly right.
Like, oh geez. And he's a pretty new player too, which was fine, but and I think we talked him into using it as a ritual. I don't remember Speak with Animals as a ritual. I think it is.
It might be, yeah.
Because he just wanted to cast it at first, and then we're like, you only have one spell, other than your cantrips.
Are you sure that's the one that you want to cast?
Yeah, you haven't even entered the dungeon yet. Like, you want. So I think he cast it as a ritual. Talk to a seagull, and I did not expect that, but it was fine. It was fun. But there is this one part that it's one of those things. Actually, we didn't. I don't know if you've run into this as a dungeon master, where you spend a lot of brain power on something that never happens.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
And so in the module, there's a character named Ned, and he's planted by someone in town, and he pretends to be, he's on the 2nd floor of the house. And Ned Shankshaft is his name, and so
of course,
and there's
Ned Shankshaft, the assassin. That's perfect.
It's ridiculous.
Hi, my name is Eric Murder Knife.
Yeah, right. Oh man,
I'm a baker.
Now that you say it that way, that never occurred to me. But anyway, so there's Ned, and you find him tied up, and the artifice is that he's planted as a prisoner. But his mission is to distract the party and keep them from finding out what's actually happening in the house. But that doesn't make any sense. It's terrible. It's a terrible idea, because who would do that? How? And it even kind of points out in the module that there's a risk, because just the fact that they find him, the players are going to realize that he's been planted or something's happened there. That someone his whole story then proves that there are people in the house. And then so it just doesn't make any sense. And then And
we have one person here. We have one person in chat. Kayakone's in chat.
Oh, awesome.
And
he
said
was.
that. Yeah, he said never went upstairs.
Nope, exactly. They never went upstairs. And so I had this whole better idea about what to do with Ned and I don't even remember what that idea was, but it was better than just having him tied up waiting. And like I had some ideas about having the house actually be haunted. And that Ned being, I think that was my last idea, was that the house would actually be haunted and that Ned would be have this kind of duality among him, like with being possessed or something. I had all these great kind of cool things that didn't use any of them.
Yeah.
They found this. Well, and because this is another little flaw with the module. If you go into a room, there's like a magic mouth, which I don't even know if is in 5th edition, but in older editions, it's a spell that just talks.
Yeah, right.
You can program it, and so they triggered it. It said some scary things. And so they knew, this is an interesting place, and they found the secret door that went downstairs into the dungeon.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then they went down into the dungeon, and it was cool. They had a couple combats. They were first level, and there was just one guy there that they killed immediately. And they found another secret door, and this group was really good. For a group who'd never gamed together, they understood old school Dungeons and Dragons. So they were searching everywhere. They were looking for traps, and they were they just had that whole approach, which made it a lot easier on them.
Yeah.
Some of those conceits that I just don't know actually the group that you're a part of, Galen, if that group would have.
No, I don't think we would have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting though how when you bring that up, that was one of my first questions was how did they do with the earlier edition feel of D&D?
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, it's different. They all have a different flavor.
For sure.
And those earlier versions are more about the 10-foot pole and the prodding into corners and finding all the stuff because you're going to die.
Totally. And this one wasn't that bad, but it was pretty, sketchy. There's like a little wandering monster table, which actually rolled. But
what are this is just curiosity on my part. What I have two questions. One is about the tone of the adventure. What kind of tone does it set, if any? And the second one is who are your main antagonists in this? Are you going up against other humans, or are there weird creatures and stuff like that?
Yeah. So and I kind of buried the lead because the module buries the lead. So answer your first question first is it's the tone, like it's not very spooky. Like I think I tried to make it spooky because it's supposed to be a haunted house.
Sure.
But I'm a little dissatisfied with the tone of it. And maybe that was my fault as a DM for not making it seem spooky enough. Or maybe I did. I don't know. Yeah, and then once you actually get in there, so the wandering monsters are just like animals, and there's some goblins that could wander in, but that never happened. But what it turns out to be is pirates. It's smugglers who are down, using it as a way station. Which actually, though, I kind of have a problem with, which is my other major critique of the module, because the smugglers are mostly smuggling like alcohol and fabric.
And
I was like, so who cares? like these adventurers don't care. Nobody cares.
You found 10 reams of silk.
Yeah, and like nobody like that crime is like who cares? Who cares about stopping these guys? Like they make
it's not real heroic.
No, it was not. That was a real thing that annoyed me about this module.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so, as they're exploring, there was a room of skeletons that was left over from the previous occupant. And, being first level, it was kind of cool because the druid who I mentioned before, got hit like twice and went down and was dying. And he was the only one who had healing. And so that got a little sketchy.
What level did you start him out at?
First level.
One?
It was first level.
First level. Okay.
Yeah. And my idea, and I think I really like this, is start at first level, but just any encounter with bad guys, is enough to get to second level. Just like take it for a test drive, take your character for a test drive, and then you're fine. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially
we have a question
awesome.
here from
Great.
Kayakone.
Love it.
It says, you mentioned wanting the game to be fast-paced. It says, I purposely stalled the story progress to encourage a bit of player role-playing to learn backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Did that stall the pace that you were going for?
As I remember, I was less worried about it in the second session. The first session, I was more concerned about the pace because I didn't even know if this group would meet again after the first session.
Yeah.
And so, as I remember, Kaikoni, maybe if we're thinking about the same thing, I remember when you did that, but that was in the second session after they'd gone back to town and leveled up to second level. And then I intentionally kind of didn't rush them along because I'm like, we've got a little more time. I enjoy this. I enjoy all the people who are here in my house, so I don't have to rush them along. And I wanted a little bit of that also. So I think we were on the same page.
Great.
And so another thing about this module that is very different from 5th edition and seems like a flaw is that there is a lot of treasure. Like, it's a 1st through 3rd level module, and this part of it, this house, is like the 1st and 2nd level. And there's like... Well, and actually it was Kaikoni's character who was a fighter. There was plate armor that they found that was supposed to be plate mail +1. And now this edition I don't think had that, like, there's like, I can't remember what it's called. I'm a bad DM or bad player, but there's like half plate, I think, in 5th edition, which is like worth a couple hundred gold. And then there's full plate, which is like 1,000 gold or 1,500 or something.
Yeah.
And so this edition just had, like, it's just plate armor. So I gave them just plate armor, but I didn't let it be +1 because I'm like, already it was too much. And I wanted them to be lean and hungry. That's a thing I'm kind of into right now as a dungeon master, is keeping the player characters poor to incentivize adventuring.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And so I intentionally, I didn't give them a lot of stuff that was in here. I'm just kind of looking through it now. So anyway, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but they... So then, halfway through, they went in, fought the skeletons. We had a break as a multi-week of playing time. Then they all came back, and we played again, 2nd level. And this time, they had found the caves beneath the haunted house, but they hadn't explored them at all. And so this time, they instead of going through the house, they went around to look for the entrance. Which, again, as a dungeon master, that's the stuff I feel the most insecure about, because I'm like, I had not thought about this at all. Like, I didn't map, I didn't take the time, and I kind of, maybe I could have done that, it would have been fun, but I just didn't take the time to map where it actually was. And it was fine. I think it was good and fun, but I also had, I was trying to play out what had happened in the house after they left, because they left for a day to rest and recuperate, but they'd killed one of the smugglers. And so the smugglers knew that there was trouble afoot.
Right.
And so I had this whole plan that I just flat out forgot about Ned. I was going to have Ned, come find them. And I had this whole idea where Ned the assassin was going to come, kind of talk to them and chat about, I don't know. I had a whole idea. Totally forgot. And so they never saw Ned. Ned never was a thing.
Ned.
Yeah. It's Schrodinger's assassin. It's is both there and not there. It was a really good idea too. But anyway, and so anyway, they found the cave. It was actually really clever of them. Full credit. They found the cave and they went in, and I had all the bad guys kind of holed up in one central location, because my idea is, if you're being invaded, you're not going to keep everyone strung out. You're going to kind of stay in one place.
Bring everyone back.
Yeah.
Shore up.
Your guards are going to be paying a lot of attention. And but this part of the module wasn't very lethal either. It was a battle, and it was a long battle for 2nd level, especially. There's a couple gnolls, and an illusionist. And because it was an illusionist, that's its own class in 1st edition D&D.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much they call it magic user. It's very much like a wizard, but I wanted to honor that. So even though as a DM, one of my tricks is that I just gave every wizard magic missile and fireball, no matter what. I was like, okay, I want to make it an illusionist. So, I had him use chromatic orb, and I had...
okay. Yeah.
I tried to use the spells that an illusionist would use. And then that worked really well. He had invisibility, and there was a great chase, because he ran past them. Because the wizard was like, he was trying to escape, and they were very frustrated, which I enjoyed quite a lot. But he didn't really. I half thought they might let him go, but not at all. So he ran out to the ocean and tried to swim away, and they stole his boat and like chased him. And it was like, okay, once they're chasing you in the boat, like he gave up. And but they didn't kill him, and I thought they might, but they took him prisoner.
Ooh.
So yeah, I mean, we'll see what I do with that. If I don't think this group in its old form will meet again, this group of players, but I'm kind of deciding, and so I might continue this later on.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It was fun.
It sounds like it's every time I hear someone talk about adapting and then running an AD&D module in 5e, they sound really different.
Yeah,
they were built differently.
Yeah,
and I think the aesthetic was different back then.
Yeah, for sure. And the one thing about this, and I know we've been talking quite a while, but so that was only the first half of the module, and so the whole second half, which we didn't get to, which I might pick up with in the near future. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't decided yet what I want to do next as a DM. Is So the idea is they go and they find the smugglers, and then there's some clue. This is the part the module is really great at. There's clues about another ship that's coming, and there's signals that are sent back and forth. And so you find these clues. There's a lot of good clues in this module. So then the second half is you go find the ship that's kind of coming to meet the ground. So there's the ground crew, and then there's the ship crew. And so the idea is the next half is you sync up and you find the boat of pirates and smugglers.
Gotcha.
And another adaptation, again, my dissatisfaction, which was these smugglers aren't that bad. It's like, so why would anyone care? Why would anyone care about, because there's, with brandy and whatever. But so I intentionally leaned into the gnolls. There were gnolls in the module. And so I leaned into, I kind of made them a cult of, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but the Gnoll Demon Lord.
Oh yeah, right.
Who I enjoy, and so I gave them a scar on their forehead of him, and just to make him a little more reavery, like from Serenity from Firefly, make him a little more passionate and angry and scary, instead of just like sailors who were stealing silk and brandy.
That's right.
Yeah. So so plot wise, I don't know if I should spoil it or not, but it's a fun chain. Maybe I won't spoil it, just because I think I might run this, and especially if Kayakoni's there, I might. He might. I don't know what's gonna happen. You or Kayakoni might wind up in this D&D group, so I won't talk too much about what's on that boat.
Yeah.
But depending on schedules and how what I decide to do. But anyway, so there's very clear clues in the boat that leads to the next module.
Excellent.
And it's pretty fun. This was my memory of it that really made it really cool. And there's cool stuff in there. And then and I have that module too. I bought them all again years ago. I've been carrying them around forever. And then that module leads to the third module. And so it really is one adventure. But it doesn't have to be. Each it's broken up, really well. And then I say that, and I'm like, but that would be a lot of playing time, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't decided. I don't really know. So anyway, there's a lot of cool stuff in there. We had fun. I think it's
I was.
What were you
I was looking at The Secret of Saltmarsh, the first one.
Yeah.
The second one, the next one is The Danger at Dunwater.
Yeah.
And the final one, The Final Enemy.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it says the secret of Saltmarsh can be played by, then it says 5 to 10.
Yeah, it's true.
Characters
of
first through third level.
Yeah.
And I was like, 10?
Yeah.
What insane person runs a group of 10?
And there's pre-gens. And this is the thing I love about this. And actually, in our next topic, which there are some games who are running now that do a very similar thing. But there's a roster of player characters. And so there are, and it's one line each. One character, and there's 20 of them. And it's this one line. and it's got, and they start with like magic items, which is just bonkers to me. But
I have to say that on the wiki page, that's one of the things that comes up in the they list a review that was done in issue number 35 of White Dwarf in the UK.
Oh yeah, cool.
And the guy critiques it. He says he fails to see how magic items at first level can be justified just being given to a character.
Yeah. Well, and that's back to that. I mean, I agree to a point, but I think some of it is that, magic item is how you are marking your success in the game. It's like experience and treasure is your rating system, or it's your points. It's or whatever. Yeah, it's how you know you're doing well.
We have another member of a chat said that last year they played the Saltmarsh and Dunwater in first edition last year.
Oh wow, cool. I wonder how did it?
I don't know.
Yeah, was it fun? Are they hearing? Hang on, I know there's that lag.
It might take a bit, but
yeah, and it's
So,
yeah, if they answer, let me know. But they
will do. Yeah.
There's also it's just really cool, and I really appreciate it. You don't see this in the other editions, but the non-player characters and the monsters and stuff. There's just little stat blocks. It's just a few little details, which I really appreciate. So anyway, so that was that.
Yeah, and they said that they loved it, and they hadn't played it since the mid '80s.
Yeah, nice. So
it's probably fun to go revisit and see how it's different.
Yeah.
And speaking of different, I think that kind of leads into our next topic. Yeah. Different but similar.
Yeah. And this is part of why I ran this was my kind of burgeoning curiosity about the old school Renaissance, old games, and so there's a whole movement, and I am not an expert in this, so a lot of the reason I'm talking about this is to share my journey and in this topic, and so it's OSR. You'll see it kind of on the internet and on Twitter, and there's a lot of online communities with that. Old school Renaissance or old school revival, I've seen them both referenced. It's really the same thing, and so these are modern games who've been play tested and kind of updated and revised, but with an old school feel.
Right.
And so some of them, like Dungeon Crawl Classics, is really a game in itself. And so it's got mechanics that are just not anything, well, vaguely like D&D, but it's not D20. It's not a D20 game. It's a percentile game. And in Dungeon Crawl Classics, it just reminded me that in that you start at 0 level with like 3 to 5 characters per player. And then whoever lives through that first adventure is eligible to become your first level character. It's the funnel is what they call it. Okay. So that's what reminded me when you mentioned that this module was designed for 5 to 10 characters. It's like, oh, that's like Dungeon Crawl Classics as you start that way. And its cousin is Mutant Crawl Classics or something. People are going to yell at me, I hope. But anyway, there's a science fiction, Gamma World-ish game that they have that is kind of the same engine with the same idea. And, the cool thing there is that character generation is very easy. And actually, that's part of the characteristics of this game, of old school Renaissance games, is that character generation tends to be very easy because it's emphasizing what you accomplish with your character as a player, not the story behind it. You make the story. You don't think of the story. If that makes sense. It's not in backstory's fine, but you don't have all these options and fidgety bits. Also because life is cheap, and if your character dies, you haven't spent that much time during character creation.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which I notice I think is a contrast with when we were making characters for your game. I know it's not your game, but you bought it for us.
Oh, the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay.
Yeah. Or character generation is pretty burly. And life is cheap.
Sure
and I'm like, we've been here for 2 hours. This character better not die in the first adventure.
And they easily could.
And they might, So And I don't know if Warhammer would count as OSR or not. That'd be a good question. It might, because of the tone. Being life is cheap and, get to the adventure and all that. But
yeah.
And so
it's interesting. I'm going through I linked in chat the link that you had up for the Dungeons and Dragons retro clones.
Oh yeah, great, perfect.
And I'm looking at that list: Labyrinth Lord, Basic Fantasy RPG, Swords and Wizardry, Dark Dungeons, Mazes and Perils for Golden Glory, and Blueholme. And of all of those, I think the only one I've ever even heard of is Labyrinth Lord.
Oh, and I haven't heard of that one. What do you know about that? I don't know anything about it.
Nothing.
Yeah, you saw the name.
I only heard the name Labyrinth Lord, and I liked the name. I thought the name was intriguing.
Yeah,
but, I never even looked it up or anything. So
yeah. I have that here too. So, a lot of I follow some of the people on Twitter who reference like Basic Fantasy RPG and Swords and Wizardry. So those are ones that I've heard of. Not these other ones really at all. I'm kind of taking a look myself. Yeah. So what started it for me was, during my period of unemployment, which started last spring, I watched a video with, Zach Sabbath. He's a little controversial. He's a little polarizing, but he's super creative. He's a visual artist mostly, but he does a lot of gaming related stuff as well. And he was on with Satine Phoenix, who works for Wizards. I don't know if she was working officially with Wizards or just doing contract work with them, but she was hosting a video about running city adventures, and he was the guest. And he has this book. It's Vornheim, the Complete City Kit, and it's like $20. Okay. It's a little bit of a book, and I bought it because it was cheap and it sounded great on that video, but as soon as I got it, you open this thing, and it's just so unlike anything. I mean, already just look at the cover, and the cover of the book itself it's like, and there's like it's like a critical hit chart like on the back. And like there's art and tables, and this is just like stuff you just don't see, and I love Wizards, and I have stacks and stacks of 5th edition books, but you just don't see them doing this kind of stuff. Like there's tables and all this kind of, it was just the creativity is just pouring off the page here. And that's something I really like about Zach. Look at this map. Oh my God, this is the inside cover. Every inch is like got crazy. I don't even know what to do with this. And I have to admit that's a little bit of my critique with this book is that I don't know what to do with it, but I sure love it. I sure love looking at it. And for as much as again, Wizards I think is a little bit like the studio production Warner Brothers making movies. They're all pretty and they're high, they're play tested and they're glossy and shiny, but this thing is like something else. This is something else, and so that really started to pique my interest. And so a lot of what he does is for another OSR game. It's Lamentations of the Flame Princess is what it's called. And that game system is based very much on first edition, not even first edition, basic Dungeons and Dragons. So the rules are a lot simpler. Because, and it says right in there, the whole idea is you're not here for the mechanics. The mechanics are just something to work just to like get through to get to the good stuff. And the good stuff is the tone and the creativity, and it's full on R-rated, like this is adult only content. So this is weird fantasy. This is like, these are villains who I don't even know, right? I haven't played it, but who will like, have you question your identity to the core, or will this kind of body horror stuff, or there will be like,
right.
Just weird, disturbing stuff, which to me sounds super fun, to be honest. But
and like you're saying, just so polar opposite, different of what Wizards is putting.
Yeah,
out. The big guy, right? The big guy on the corner is putting out some pretty safe, generic fantasy stuff.
Yeah, and again, I think you and I are both we're fans of Wizards. Like we run their stuff. We love it. We think they're a great group, but they don't
definitely.
They're very thoughtful in their chances, the chances that they take. It's a PG or PG-13 game. And we all think they're being bold when it's PG-13.
Right.
Which is fine. And Strahd had a few kind of scary, creepy things in it for sure. But So that's what's drawn me in, and so I still don't actually have a rule book for any game, an OSR game. And again, I was unemployed for a long time, so I was watching videos and just learning more. And I sold my Magic cards not long ago, a couple months or two ago, and because I haven't played Magic in years, probably 10 years since I played a game of Magic. And so I got like this is anyway. I had a little bit of credit from the place that I'd sold them to, but I couldn't find the book for Lamentations is on back order because it's actually produced by I think a guy in Iceland, Jim Raggy, I think his name is, and so it's European. And I think I could buy it directly, but that's not where I have my store credit. I don't have my store credit with him. Exactly. I have it with the game store. And, we all want to support our local game stores when we can anyway. So that's kind of where I'm stuck in the middle. You can get the book, the player's book without art for free online as a PDF. You just go on there and download it. And it's cool. It's creepy. It's good stuff. It's fun stuff. I recommend that anyone who thinks they might be interested should do that. So that's kind of where I am now. Like I'm debating, like at the very least, not long ago, and I actually want to do a whole deep dive into this, but I got the Maze of the Blue Medusa, which is a mega dungeon, art by Zach Sabbath, written by someone else, and it's gorgeous. I don't have it here, but we'll talk about it another day. But it's this gorgeous book of a mega dungeon that's also designed for use. So it's a high use, great thing that I think would convert pretty easily to 5th edition. It's pretty systems neutral, actually, I guess, but OSR for sure. And anyway, so that's just my attraction. Is like there's all these kind of creative things that are really compelling to me. So
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there'll be more to come. On...
It sounds like there's going to be some future episodes of this show that are dedicated to this stuff.
Something
I look forward to.
Yeah, And one thing I think this was actually what led me to Saltmarsh, kind of in the backdoor way, was trying to see how 5th edition would adapt to this content, and it worked really well. And a lot of them are updated games enough to be very compatible. So
excellent.
Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say for now about the OSR.
For now, that's the addendum, right?
Yeah,
for now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that kind of leads into what I was going to talk about.
Great.
Because you are now igniting in me all this interest in these things, these games and modules I've never heard of. Lamentations of the Flame Princess, Dungeon Crawl Classics, the Vornheim City Kit, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about how I go about finding and then keeping track of the games that I like, which is it's almost a part-time job now. They're in today's world.
How's that job pay, Galen?
It's not great. It's not great. It's really I feel more like an intern.
Right.
So,
there you go.
I do a lot of work that I don't get paid.
That kind of job. Yeah.
So so I guess I should start off with how I go about finding new stuff. I think probably the first thing that I do for brand new stuff that no one really knows anything about is Kickstarter.
Yeah. Okay.
So just before we started the show, I went to Kickstarter and I went to their search page, and I did a search for games and tabletop games. And I'm presented here with a page. It's not showing it or anything. I'm just going to talk about it. I'm shown with a page of 12 different games on one page. And they range from a game called Broccoli, a card game, a game where kids get excited about fruits and vegetables.
That sounds terrible. What? sorry, broccoli lover. Actually, I like broccoli, but like as a game, like that's the funnest thing you could think of
for kids.
Okay,
kids.
All right.
And there's a nice little turtle there, and he's happy. He's playing tennis.
See, this is also what happens when you get too much like Lamentations of the Flame Princess stuff on your mind. You're like, what? This is healthy? Like healthy people doing healthy things? That's no fun. Give me the body horror. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. So what else is on that page?
No, that's great. It goes from there all the way to the other end would be something called Labyrinth, the Lich Lord's Lair tabletop fantasy RPG game.
Oh,
And then there's everything in between.
yeah,
There's card matching games and fun party games and stuff like that. So there's a treasure trove of new
yeah,
games being put up on Kickstarter. The caveat always being caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware.
yes,
You never know how these things are going to shake out.
yeah,
And there have been projects that have been backed and then people lost money and stuff like that. So,
yeah, yeah. What's
but
your
it's,
experience? Like, what have you? What's your biggest find that you've backed, and it's been your
I'm
biggest win? Do you think?
trying to remember if I think I think the only thing I've ever backed on Kickstarter, I don't even remember if it was Kickstarter,
Huh.
was the Cards Against Humanity,
Oh yeah,
maybe?
okay.
Way
What a
back their
pre-order of some kind?
first, yeah, way back. We did that. But mainly what I use Kickstarter for is to keep track of a game.
Oh,
So I'll go find a
yeah.
game and I'll see one that looks interesting and I'll copy down the name of the game and the publisher and I'll stick it into a spreadsheet.
Oh,
And so then I'll have that listed and I'll have like the date that it's supposed to go, that the Kickstarter ends and
yeah.
their proposed ship date. And then I'll just kind of look for it. If it's, something I think's interesting, and I'll just keep it on my radar that way.
Oh, that's so smart. Yeah, yeah.
So it's this is where the job part of it comes
Yeah,
in,
you have a
right?
spreadsheet. That's a job.
Updating the spreadsheet
Yeah.
can be a job. So
And I think there's two
that's
kinds of people about the whole spreadsheet thing. Like there's
mhm.
because I like that too. Like like my Amazon list is always like up to date, and that's fun for me, but I've also heard it's like some people think that's a chore, like
Oh yeah.
building your own wish list is not fun for everyone. And
hmm
yeah.
hmm
So anyway,
And
it's fun for
oftentimes
me too.
I'll even add games that I'm just interested in, like the theme of it. Like maybe I don't see
Mm,
myself, knowing me and knowing my gaming group, I may not see myself playing it,
hmm.
but I'm interested in maybe just like the vibe off the developer or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's also a good way to kind of keep track of development houses, of which
Hmm.
there are, always a ton now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I think moving on from that to and from developers, another way to keep track of games and find them is via Twitter.
Hmm. Yeah.
If you find a developer you like, they often will have some sort of social media presence,
Yeah. For sure.
and Twitter is a big one.
Yeah.
And I will oftentimes look for game designers as well, people that work on projects, and I'll go and I'll see
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I've liked all three of these games, and then I look at the game designers and I'll find the common denominator there,
Oh, you
and
mean
it's
like
like
board game designers?
yeah, board game designers,
Oh,
RPG designers
yeah.
as well. And I'll say, hey, maybe I'll keep track of that designer and see what else they're working on.
Hmm.
Go follow them on Twitter, and depending on how active they are, it's
Yeah.
an easy way to keep track of their work.
Yeah. And I think that's
Um,
probably my biggest one that is Twitter. So I have a pretty
mm,
yeah, I follow a lot of folks,
yeah,
and
yeah,
the ones that I'm most excited about have at least some connection on Twitter, that yeah draws me in.
hmm yeah. And some of the developers are really active on Twitter and
Hmm.
really good about engaging if you have questions about their work and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Some
yeah.
people, and it's a really good way to kind of get into the flow of that. If you're
Hmm.
interested in game design and keeping track of all that kind of stuff, it can be a really good door for you to
Yeah.
try.
I found so early on when I was started doing YouTube videos, um I think I had my Twitter account, my continuing clockwise Twitter account, but I unearthed it again and started using it, and so I had it
Mm,
separated between like real life Twitter and gamer Twitter.
right.
And so
Yeah.
with the local, not local, but current, political, global, everything is just so hard sometimes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I use my gamer Twitter as kind of a refuge. Only, a lot of the people I follow don't separate that way. And so they're all worked up
Yeah.
and angry about the same stuff I am. And so it doesn't always, my
Yeah.
refuge idea has not worked as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as I originally had intended. But these are people I
It's
generally
true.
agree with or care about or want to keep track of what I care about what they're thinking anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, that was just something I've
Yeah.
reflected on. I was like, oh yeah, now I'm mad
Yeah.
again because
And it is it's also a way of getting a temperature of the gaming world, the gaming scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
What topics are flying around on the internet right now?
Yeah. And sometimes it's great. Sometimes the controversies will, I'll hear people,
exactly
complaining about a controversy before I even learn what has actually happened at all.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Another site that I want to mention, and I will link it here in chat, is Tabletop Gaming News.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
This was a site that was recommended to me by friend of the channel, Kaya Kone.
Mm-hmm.
Tabletop Gaming News is sort of an aggregator of what it says.
Oh.
Tabletop Gaming News. And so if I'm on their page right now, and they're talking about, here's a post about some new models from Brigade Models, some new Neo-Soviet fighter carriers.
Oh, I'm on there too. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's they run the gamut from tabletop RPGs, tabletop war games, party games. It's just basically news from around gaming, and it's a great way of, you wake up in the morning, you get your cup of whatever you have, and you sit down with this, and then you peruse it and see what's new, what's going on, what releases are coming that you might be interested in. And they do, pardon me, they tag stuff as well with like hashtag kind of things, so you can keep track of it that way there. I've found that an invaluable resource just for a good jumping off point. You'll see a headline that you like, and then you can follow that as far as you want to into, tracking down the people that are in the company and following them on Twitter, that kind of thing as well.
Neat.
So yeah, Tabletop Gaming News is a great aggregator and a really useful resource.
Cool. Yeah.
Following in on the sites, then are and your mileage may vary on these, the company-specific gaming sites.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm talking about Wizards of the Coast or Paizo or any of those like gaming developer sites.
Yeah, Kobold Press,
some
another
of them,
smaller one, but
yeah, exactly. And some of them are really well maintained and they're really helpful. And then some of them are just a splash page with the name of the company and the names of their products. And that's it.
Yeah. What do you think of the Wizards of the Coast website?
I like it. I think it's useful. I think since they've changed over to the D&D Beyond thing, it's way more a place that I go.
And you subscribe to D&D Beyond, right? Do you?
I did, yeah. I bought a bunch of the content and I subscribed to it.
Cool.
And it's also kind of because they do so much now in like live plays with Critical Role and all that kind of stuff. And it pulls all their stuff all on one page. So if you want to find out what's going on in D&D, you go to dndbeyond.com and it's all right there.
Right.
All their news.
Right.
Which it's handy.
Yeah, I should look back again. I remember.
I don't want to read every article or anything, but it's a handy thing.
Yeah, I just remember being frustrated by it, but that was a long time ago. So, like when 5th edition was first coming out, like I remember spending, and I was super excited for 5th edition, right? And I remember like searching their website to try to get release dates to try to find out when the actual date it was going to be released, and it was a pain in the butt. Again, that was 10 years ago. No, it wasn't 10 years ago. 5th edition. Fourth edition was 10 years ago. No, it was 2008. It was 4th edition. So it was like 4 years ago, though. Okay. Yeah, more like 4 years.
All right. I got you. Yeah.
But anyway.
So, yeah. And, like I said, your mileage will vary on those sites.
Right.
The two other sites that I want to mention are Twitch and YouTube. They're both really good. YouTube is better, I think, at finding videos that show you gameplay. As far as someone telling you how to play the game.
Yeah.
Like rules breakdown and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I can't remember what it was. It was I think it may have been Chad when we were playing X-Wing.
Yep.
And I was wanted to find out how this game kind of works. And so I were watching some rules tutorials online.
Yep.
And I found them all on YouTube, and they're all really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Those
So
are long,
again,
though. Like, it's a long, because I was doing the same thing, and I remember,
yeah,
because it
yeah,
actually takes a long time to play a normal game of X-Wing. Like, it takes like an hour and a
hmm
half or 2 hours, and that's a long time to
hmm
watch people, measuring and
yeah,
moving
it's
and
true. Yeah,
rolling and measuring and moving and rolling.
and it's interesting too because I'll find that not everyone on YouTube, not every channel will play the games that I want to see played,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So you got to do a search and then weed out the ones that maybe aren't so great. That
Yeah.
maybe they're doing the game you want to see, but maybe you don't like their style or whatnot. But
Yeah.
then
Or
again,
low
a
production
lot of
is
people are
another.
doing these.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I mean,
But
not that I'm high production, but the lighting, the lighting, and sometimes it's
yeah,
just hard to watch.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so YouTube, I think for the rule stuff,
Yeah.
and again, this kind of follows in. So say you find a game on Tabletop Gaming News or something that looks interesting,
Yeah.
and then you go find the people on Twitter, and you're like, okay, yeah, I like their company, what they're doing. Then you go on YouTube and you find the rules breakdown and see how the game is played,
Hmm.
and it's just more levels of, especially in today's world, games can be expensive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
some of the box tabletop games
Yeah.
can be in the hundreds of dollars.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so it's good to do your due diligence and make sure it's something, as much as you can, that
Hmm.
you'd like to play.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then following up with YouTube would be Twitch. And I think what Twitch does really well is the actual play. Watching a group actually sit down and play. They won't necessarily talk about the rules, but you can see them see how the game works with a group of friends.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this goes the same for I think the tabletop games to role playing games.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anything that you're looking for, if you can find someone sitting down actually playing it, it gives you a good idea about what it might be like if you actually get this thing home and bring your friends around a table and try and give it a go yourself.
Yeah. 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 And all of these things just
Um,
remind me of one, part of what kind of has kept me interested in the OSR games or just fifth edition, because, even though, you've talked about using these things as ways to track products and learn how they're played, there's also this
mhm.
underlying community to it all. There's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
these creators, especially the ones who I think the most successful ones who have had the most successful Kickstarters start with, a Twitch and or YouTube community and an active Twitter following, and then they kickstart their game. And,
Right.
I
Right.
think, we all,
Yeah.
I don't know, not we all, but, Matt Colville, I guess he calls it Colville, but I come from Colville, Washington, and that's how we say it. So, anyway, but that's exactly his model, and he was
Mm.
wildly successful. And I think his book, I was kind of doing it your style, where I didn't kickstart it, but I'm very interested in it. Strongholds and Followers. So it's 5th edition
Mhm.
rules for strongholds and followers, like
Oh, okay.
henchmen or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be really fun. I think that's something I'm interested in for sure. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I think it went to the printer, so it should be out here pretty soon. So he's a great example of seeing all of those things kind of all at once.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much it for me.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a holistic approach to finding and keeping track of your games. It's not just one thing. It's not just YouTube or Twitch or Kickstarter. I think if you kind of combine all these kind of things,
Yeah.
I think it gives
Yeah.
you a better frame of reference for what the games might be like, that and kind of weeding out the ones
Yeah.
that looked great but maybe not so much.
Yeah.
And then you could find this hidden gem, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
And this just reminds me of like what a time to be in the hobby, because like
It's true.
there was none of this,
Mhm.
when in the late 80s, for example, when I was, you had to buy a magazine, and there were two of them, two magazines, Dungeon,
Yeah, right.
or it was Dragon.
Yeah.
Dungeon was just Adventurous Dragon. And then,
Yeah.
you'd mentioned White Dwarf, right? In the
Mhm.
UK. And you had to hope
Yep.
that it printed a review of the game that you wanted, or
Exactly.
or either a review or some sort of promotional article or something. You'd see advertisements, and I guess that was it
Yeah.
too. There was advertisements for all that stuff,
hmm
and now it's
I
in
think
real time.
in the 80s when my gaming really started, I think my purchases were entirely based on box art.
Great.
Uh,
Yeah.
because there wasn't there wasn't any reviews that I could find for
Yeah.
some of these games. I'm like, what is this? And the guy that runs
Yeah,
the
yeah.
shop's like, I don't know. Have you played
Oh,
it?
jeez.
No.
Yeah.
It looks cool, so I'll get that.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
And you get home and it's like, oh, this is not what I thought it was at all.
Oh.
But yeah, you're right. It is as daunting as it can be with so much of it.
Yeah.
There's so much of it.
Yeah.
What a treasure trove we have of
Yeah.
gaming and information at our fingertips. It's really kind of amazing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely,
Amazing.
like you were saying, I think the problem is that so much of it is the curation of it. How do you find how do you find the good YouTubers who are really smart and insightful and articulate? How do you find
Right.
And it's tricky. It's tricky stuff. So.
Yeah. Kayakone says this. He's the same. It was the box art and hoping in the 80s.
Yeah. I remember doing that with
Exactly.
like games, with video games, because this was, first it was the Atari 2600 era, and then it was the my Nintendo, and it was like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, the art has nothing to do with the gameplay, or yeah, whatever.
So Sprocketeer on Twitch said the only game that they ever bought based on the artwork was something called Sky Realms of Jorun.
Oh, that sounds
that
sounds
Does
familiar.
that ring a bell with you, Kayakone? I am not. I can't place it.
No.
I'm pulling it up on the internet. That artwork looks cool. There's like some weird demon monster.
Oh, cool.
But it looks like a Renaissance painting, a demon monster.
Awesome.
Over these two humans trying to comfort someone who looks like they're dying, but it's an alien.
Oh, that sounds
who's
awesome.
dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first one that I think I bought. It was for the 2600, the Atari 2600. It was land sea battle, something. And so it had this art with this great military, like whatever, and it was the same old 2600 crap. I mean, it was like the thing would fly along and you'd shoot it, or whatever.
A little thing that maybe looked like a duck, and
right, exactly.
Your tank looked like a teeter-totter or a seesaw, whatever you want to call it. So
it was a little better than Combat, I guess. The game Combat, where
a little better.
You were like, better. But at least there was some AI to it. Where Combat doesn't have any AI. But
that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a deep disappointment. But so anyway.
I think that kind of wraps us up for tonight.
So
as we're devolving into our gaming history.
Yeah, being bitter, 10-year-old Chad bitterness. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's the indicator, and we've been at it for a good chunk of time here. So.
Alrighty.
So yeah.
Chad, would you like to talk any about your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So if you see this on YouTube, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. That'll help me out. We will be releasing this on podcast, so many people will be listening to this in the future. And if that's you, 5-star reviews are particularly helpful in helping people find us. And Galen, what do you want people to do if they are watching this right now?
I want people to be happy and live a good, fruitful life.
Nice.
And I'd also like them, if they like what they saw here on the channel today on Twitch, you could hit the follow button up top, and you can get notifications when I go live here on Twitch. You can also follow me on Twitter at Zobmie, Zobmie. I also do stream announcements there as well. And I want to make an announcement for the next thing I'm going to be doing here on Twitch.
Nice.
When we're done here, I'm about to start downloading Fallout 76. The Fallout multiplayer, which is going live tomorrow. So if all goes well, cross fingers, I'll be streaming that tomorrow on launch day. So you heard it here first. Folks.
That's exciting. Ooh. And just so we're clear, if you're we're shooting this on November 12th, 2018. So that gives you a reference point for when today and tomorrow might actually be.
Exactly. Your mileage may vary on the date.
Yes, exactly.
So alrighty, folks, I'd like to thank Sprocketeer and Kayakone both for stopping by and saying hi in the chat here on Twitch. Other than that, folks, I am Zobmie, and I will catch you next time.
This is Chad. Game great.